Welcome. This is an advanced technical briefing, and if you're a safety or compliance pro, you already know the line between a routine job and a major incident can be razor thin. Today, we're going straight to one of the most common and costly mistakes in any permit to work system, the misclassification of hot versus cold work.
So let's just jump right in with a scene every single one of you has witnessed. An operator takes a grinder to a metal flange. It's a daily task, right? But it's also throwing a shower of sparks, a very clear, very obvious ignition source. Okay, now here's where things go off the rails. You go check the paperwork. The permit to work is all signed off, but it's classified as cold work. How? Why? Well, because the job description says mechanical prep, not welding. And that one little word choice, that's where the real danger starts. Look, this isn't just some clerical error. This misclassification is a massive compliance gap. It completely bypasses safety controls that are mandated by law. This is exactly the kind of thing that leads to huge OSHA citations, and it's what we're going to tear down today.
So let me be crystal clear. If you design, approve, or audit permit to work systems, getting this level of detail right isn't just a best practice, it is absolutely essential. This explainer is built to give you that sharp edge.
All right, let's get into the weeds with a really structured comparison, all based on OSHA's regulatory framework. We're going to map out the non-negotiable differences in the controls required for each permit. Okay, this table really lays it all out. Take a look at the hot work column. An ignition source is present by its very definition. That fact alone triggers specific OSHA regulations like 1910.252, which mandates a Firewatch if there are combustibles within that 35-foot bubble. Now flip over to cold work. The whole system presumes there's no ignition source, so the main focus becomes hazardous energy control, lockout, tagout. But, and here's a key detail, even with cold work, if you might release vapors, other OSHA rules kick in and demand atmospheric testing. You see the fundamental difference? These two permits are built on completely opposite assumptions about risk. Now for the main event, the gray area. Because this is where the compliance risk truly lives. This is where misclassification happens all the time. And it's how a seemingly low-risk job can become a major uncontrolled hazard.
These are the exact scenarios that auditors and OSHA inspectors are trained to hunt for. A crew might be using so-called non-sparking tools, but enough friction can still generate enough heat to become an ignition source. Or think about a simple line break on a hydrocarbon pipe. It's classified as cold work to handle the energy isolation, but the second you crack that flange, you could have a flammable atmosphere. That's a trigger point. Same goes for bringing a normal cell phone or a battery-powered drill into a classified area. Any one of these can instantly push a job over that regulatory line, making it hot work.
So, this all boils down to one single deciding principle: ignition potential. Honestly, OSHA's regulations don't care what you call the job on your permit. The only question that matters is this: is there a potential, any potential, for an ignition source to meet a flammable atmosphere? If the answer is yes, then by law, it is hot work. That is the test, period. All right, let's talk paperwork, because this is what an OSHA inspector is going to demand in an audit. And the differences here aren't just about filling out different boxes. They reflect two legally distinct sets of required safety checks.
Look at the specifics for a hot work permit under OSHA 1910.252. You must document the Firewatch. You must confirm you've handled the 35-foot rule for combustibles. You must have that written authorization. Now compare that to a cold work permit. Yes, it's a critical safety tool, but it's a company's internal system, and its focus is almost entirely on energy control and LOTO. Here's a fun fact: OSHA doesn't even define cold work permit in its regulations. They regulate hazardous energy for sure, but the hot work permit has a whole separate list of fire prevention mandates that a cold work permit simply isn't designed to address.
Knowing the rules is one thing. Seeing how they fall apart in the real world, that makes the risk really hit home. Let's walk through a classic chain reaction that starts with one small mistake and ends in a complete system meltdown. So it all starts with that grinder being called cold work. Right there, because of that one error, no Firewatch gets assigned. That's a direct violation. Then the risks start stacking up. The job's in a confined space. A hot work permit would have forced continuous atmospheric monitoring, but the cold work permit didn't. And to top it all off, that now invalid permit gets passed from shift to shift, and nobody bothers to reevaluate the hazards. You see how that single misclassification at the very beginning just caused the complete collapse of every legally required safety system? And if you're wondering who's on the hook for this, well, this quote from the regulation itself tells you everything you need to know. The responsibility isn't just on the operator. OSHA is crystal clear. Management is explicitly responsible for the entire system, from the procedures to the training to the final sign-off.
Okay, we've gone deep into the regs and the risks. So what is the one single critical insight that you need to take back to your team, your auditors, and your permit issuers?
This is it. This is the whole game. You have to train your teams to stop looking at the job title and start analyzing the ignition potential. Grinding, drilling, using a non-rated flashlight. If it has the potential to make a spark or enough heat in the wrong place, it is hot work.
And that really is the bottom line. If that very first decision, that classification, is wrong, then every single safety control that's supposed to be built on that permit is going to be wrong too. The Firewatch won't be there. The air monitoring will be missing. Your site won't be compliant. And more importantly, it won't be safe.
If this technical breakdown was valuable, make sure you share it with your team. Getting this right is absolutely critical for everyone, from the person writing the permit to the person auditing the system. We hope this deep dive helps you strengthen your entire permit-to-work program.